Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to day 3 of Digital Investment Summit at Malaysia Tech Month 2020. My name is Sean, and I'll be your host for the day. We appreciate you for taking your time off your busy schedule to join us today. Now, the Digital Investment Summit aimed at elevating Malaysia as a premier digital tech and services hub and the heart of digital ASEAN. This is a fully virtual event, as you can see over here, which will feature a series of live webinars, tech and talent ecosystem, and locations showcase. The event is targeting regional and global decision makers, senior business leaders, and CXOs of digital tech and services companies, startups, investors, corporates, and international communities looking for opportunities in Malaysia and ASEAN. Digital Investment Summit at MTM 2020 will be exhibiting Malaysia as a fertile ground for investments and the epitome of a digital home. Now, before we move on, allow me to convey some housekeeping guidelines. Now, if you have any questions, you may submit them via the Q&A comment box. Also, meetings and chat rooms for attendees are available for your networking convenience. And if you're watching this live stream on Facebook, if you have any questions, please state them in the comment sections below. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will be moving forward to our first panel session, and it will begin shortly. Click Join Session. And without further ado, we would now like to invite our first panel session of the day, brought to you in collaboration with Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Centre, Majid. Please welcome our moderator, Mr. Justin Tan, Head of Investment Advisory from MDEC, who will introduce our speakers for the session. Over to you, Mr. Justin.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us so early in the day. We look forward to having everyone here in this exciting session that we have today, titled "Attracting Next Generation Emerging Technologies: Malaysia as a Global Technology and Innovation Sandbox." So, without further ado, let me introduce our panel of esteemed speakers here, all famous individuals in our local startup scene as it is. Let's start with Dr. Yeong, an associate professor at University Technology Malaysia. Currently holds a PhD from Imperial College London as well. His interests are in robotics, innovations, and entrepreneurship, and he and his team has won more than 100 awards, such as the British Invention Show, MOE Entrepreneurship Mentor Award, as well as many others. He's a serial entrepreneur and has co-founded several companies. One of these companies being DF Automation and Robotics, which, if you may have seen in the news, has recently worked together with MOH to produce and test robots to assist frontliners in delivering meals and medicine. Another guest that we have here today is Cheong Jinsi, or known as JX. He's the founder and CEO of Polardrone, leading drone solutions company based in Cyberjaya, with offices as well in Thailand. He is recognized. He was recognized in 2019 as Forbes Asia 30 Under 30 for his work in the agriculture sector, and is also a certified remote pilot. Wow! So to date, Polardrone has also mapped and analyzed over 800 hectares of agricultural land. And in 2020, Polardrone launched Ori sites. Yeah. So and if I'm not wrong, they're in close conjunction with DJI, which we'll cover more a bit in the session later. Next, I move on to Encik Muhammad Armi, founder and managing director of Ofotech. Muhammad Armi, or Armi, as I think you just mentioned, completed his master's degree in telecommunication engineering from the University of Kassel in Germany. He also basically, while he was in Germany, he developed certain technologies for like functionality and performance test software for Mercedes and some other. He definitely for Mercedes and other car companies, definitely definitely has the technical expertise and depth in the engineering field. he returned to Malaysia in 2015. So, yay us. And we managed to bring back some good talent there, and he has been developing business opportunities there since. And of course, right now, the most prominent being Ofotech, which is a multi-award winning company, especially in geospatial AI solutions. And last but not least, Encik Safuan Muhammad Zairi. So he is the Senior Vice President in Majid. Previously, not too long ago, was from MDEC, and now has joined, left for, and now heading the National Technology and Innovation Sandbox, as well as the Social Innovation and Academy in Majid. He has a Bachelor of Laws and MBA from RMIT, and he's recently and during his time, he's of a famous figure in the local drone industry in particular, and initiated Malaysia's Dronetech ecosystem, supported by the World Economic Forum. And for any of you who has been in this space, he's a familiar face, along with a couple of others. So yeah, without further ado, let me pass the floor to Safuan so that he can walk us through his presentation. Thank you, Safuan.
All right. Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Thank you very much, Justin. Thank you very much, MDEC, for inviting me over to join your session here. It is certainly to me, I'm very pleased. I'm with the people that I know. I've worked with Armi and as well as JX. Previously in MDEC for drones, and then now with Dr. Yeong as part of NTIS. With his company DF Automation with MCK19, which is Makcik Kia 19 for some of you probably have known it as well. So what I would like to do is to be able to give some sharing regarding the National Technology and Innovation Sandbox. It shouldn't be too long. Yeah, I've been watched over by my fellow panelists to make sure that I don't go over time. And this session is not about me; it's also about our local startups, and technology companies. All right, so let's go. All right, okay, so. Let me just, okay, thank you very much for bringing up the screen. Okay, so when we talk about the National Technology and Innovation Sandbox, or NTIS, it is actually initiative under Penjana. Yeah, I mean, it came at the very right time. But we share the vision of transforming Malaysia to be an inclusive high-tech nation via advanced technology-driven strategies. What you see here right now is something that has been developed, also known as the 10 by 10 Science, Technology, Innovation and Economy Framework by the Academy Science Malaysia. But there are a lot of similarities, the things that we support as well when we come to the National Technology Innovation Sandbox, or I shall just refer to NTIS, yeah? So when we talk about sandbox, we were just having a discussion with the panel just now. Majority of Malaysian perhaps, is figuring out in terms of sandbox. It's not something that we all grow up with. But for those of you who have been exposed, watching TVs and whatnot, we then, or playing games, yeah, maybe, as we were commenting earlier, playing games, and then you have this sandbox environment, you will know that this is actually a safe place. And for NTIS, it's a safe place to actually allow innovators, researchers, academia, startups to test their product, services, business model, as well as delivery mechanism in a live environment, but safe environment with all the regulation relaxed, yeah, on specific processes or regulatory requirement has been reduced. So it's important also for me to highlight in the house that we are focusing on the 10 by 10. When we talk about 10 by 10, I'll show you a latest slide. We are talking about technology drivers. If you count, there are 10 technology drivers there. And on your right-hand side, you have 10 economic sectors there as well. Yeah, so this is what we refer to as 10 by 10. Of course, we have the strategic pillars that we want to achieve, development as high-tech nation, talking about acceleration and R&D commercialization, which is a very important thing under NTIS, yeah, which I shall expand further. Of course, we're not just doing it to support local objectives. There are also bigger goals, global goals, yeah, such as the SDG. And of course, under the original 10 by 10, you have the three objectives there: high-skilled jobs, GNI, GDP, social inclusion, and increase private sector investment on R&D. Yeah. So let's just move on. You can always ask me any questions later. We've got plenty of time. So next. When we talk about the NTIS specifically, so we have already had a view of what the definition of a sandbox earlier, but this is again to address the nation's immediate and long-term economic needs. Yeah. So look around nowadays and you can see that, it is 1 year ago, the world is so different. Yeah. You and me, we are out there either exercising, going out shopping, we are meeting up with friends, but now 3/4 of the time you are locked in the house, in the room. You are doing the same thing over and over. You tend to work longer hours, so the world as we know it 12 months ago is not the same. So, but let's bring down the discussion to what to today and what we are observing. So in Malaysia right now, you see that Malaysia, based on the global ranking, there are two global rankings. Based on Bloomberg Innovation Index 2020, we are ranked 27. Based on the Global Innovation Index, Malaysia is ranked 35 out of 129. So we are an innovative nation with innovative startup, yeah. But the problem that we have slow innovation adoption, and this is a problem, yeah. And it is probably due to high commercialization costs, low private participation, high barrier of entries. There are probably multiple reasons, including as well a lot of regulation, as some of the players here will be able to elaborate further. So this is a problem. You have a highly innovative nation, but then you have a problem in terms of you have problem of commercializing. I think the commercialization rate is about 14.5%, which is really low, and it doesn't match up. Yeah. So I think to add on to some of the issues we are looking at the government procurement process is, those of you who have been dealing with government procurement, it's lengthy, it's tedious. There's also red tapes and bureaucracy. Some of them are there for a very good reason, but it adds on to the time. And if you apply that to startups, startups needs to ramp up quickly, because if not, you won't be able to survive. And this is where you have, the what do you call that? You have slow innovation adoption, high commercialization rate, a lot of bureaucracy, and possibly long time taken to adopt for government to procure your services. And on top of that, you add on another challenge, the biggest challenge right now, you're looking at COVID-19, yeah, and that affects the whole global economy in terms of falling GDP everywhere, high employment rate everywhere as well, right? So you see in terms of people can't go out, in terms of labor, not just talking about foreign labor, but even local labor, you are stuck in the house. And this brings us to the immediate focus area for NTIS. Of course, NTIS has its own objective. We're talking about resuscitation on recovery of Malaysia's economy in short and mid-term. You're talking about faster promotion of new innovation. And also you're talking about catalyzing and catalyzing innovation growth in mid to long term, yeah? Okay, so for 2020, we actually kicked off NTIS somewhere in July 15. And we targeted at that point in time 5 sectors which we felt were most severely impacted by COVID. We're talking about, and impacted meaning that, if you look at the hospitals, they are inundated with cases. The health services is tested to the brink. And travel and tourism, a sharp downfall, because people can no longer travel. Yeah, we were able to travel for a short while, domestic tourism, but now that's also a luxury for most of us, in the red zone. And then you have education. Children are not going to school. Parents are going crazy, yeah, because they have, especially moms, you have a house to look after, and you have children, and then they need to go to school, and they have to go virtual, and then they are there. And this is an adjustment for the entire family. Agriculture as well, again, possibly due to the reliance on labor, we are not able to produce as fast as before. Some of the situation, for example, our paddy, our self-sufficiency rate is quite low. Yeah, we need to see how we can automate some of these processes to make sure that despite labor not being able to go to the field, we are still be able to produce. And manufacturing as well, yeah. So these are the 5 areas out of the, if you remember, there are 10 areas just now, 10 by 10. These are the 5 that we wanted to pick. So let me talk a bit about the composition of NTIS. This initiative is led by MOSTI, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. with the NTI Secretariat and multiple support from other partners. Yeah. So Majid has been appointed as the lead secretariat. Of course, we cannot work alone on this. It's such a huge task. So we work with other partners, other agencies, for example, the Technology Park Malaysia, as well as MIMOS. The two, which is TPM and MIMOS, our technology partners, and we have Futurize, which is our regulatory partner. So among other roles crucial to NTIS would be, we help. I think the important thing for startups and scale-ups and companies is you have products, innovative products and solution, yeah? But the problem is then you have low commercialization rate, low adoption rate, yeah? So part of what we do as well is to help accelerate the commercialization of the product and solution, or in the government sector, adoption of those product and solution into the government sector. So we also play a critical role working with the regulators, in terms of as part of the Sandbox initiative to relax some of those requirements so that the startups or the companies can actually test. And this is important because the regulator needs to feel safe before the product and solution hits the market. They have a responsibility as well, and we should recognize that. But the company also needs to go out to the market ASAP, yeah? If not, they'll run out of runway and they will die. So we do not want that to happen to any of our Malaysian companies. And of course, we work, there's a logo there, MTDC, they are our funding partners, yeah? In fact, all the cases, once they are approved at NTIS, Executive Selection Committee will go to MTDC for funding, for those who have requested funding. So moving on, very quickly, this is part of the framework as mentioned earlier by the Academy of Science Malaysia. It maps the 10 by 10, which is the 10 science and technology drivers against the 10 Malaysia socio-economic drivers. So what we plan to do is that, for the NTIS, we are not just simply accepting any problems, any solution products out there. It has to be what we are trying to solve are national level issues. So we are guided by, firstly, the 10 by 10, if there are any areas whereby we can match the technology and the industry, that will be one of the areas how we actually prioritize our selection. Moving on. We also further refine that by 30 proposed national niche areas. So we are guided along the way, yeah, again, to make sure that we are solving national level issues. But we broaden up in terms of the international niche areas, as you can see. For example, integrated water resource management. For those of you in Selangor, you would appreciate it right now. I would appreciate it right now because I live in Selangor, yeah? So I think all of this are critical, not just to the national growth, yeah, but also to innovation and also to the growth of the startup and scale up of technology companies in Malaysia, yeah? So all this seen in the 10 by 10, also seen in the 5 target sectors just now. So combination of it acts like a filter for us to actually select the problem and product and solution from the companies that we want to promote under NTIS. Okay, moving on, just to give you a quick view in terms of, what's keeping us busy at Majid, together with our secretariat, TPM, MIMOS, as well as Futurize, as well as MTDC. As you can see there, from 15th of July up to last 23rd of November, we have, this is not received, these are draft. These are people who are interested in applying with NTIS. So they go in, they log in, and they put in their application. There's 1,400 for as of last July, yeah? So we are accepting every day, we are processing every day. Every month there's a different cohort. We are going up to cohort 4 right now. So every month there's about 100 plus. And then from there, you have the ones who are ready, they submit. So you have 333, yeah, after that we pre-screen. You will go through an automatic algorithm screening, whereby if let's say you do not fill any of the boxes, or you do not meet the technology readiness level, TRL level 6, then you will be returned, the application will be returned. Once you're done, then it goes into another screening by our technical committee, yeah, together with our regulatory screening, together MIMOS, TPM, as well as Futurize, and then the number drops to 187. From there, we have an executive selection committee that picks the cases that fits the bill, yeah, and 157 have gone through the ESC, yeah, and then they have other checkpoints as well. But suffice to say that some of them have actually gone to MTDC for funding, yeah, and some of the participants are here with me today. So from the 10 by 10, you can see there's a certain, they gravitate towards certain areas. Advanced intelligence system, encapsulating AI, for example, seems to take the first top spot, yeah. Or for the socio-economic drivers, you see medical and healthcare. I think because of what's happening globally and around the world, there's a lot of opportunities there. Perhaps we can invite Dr. Yeong as well to talk about MCK19 in terms of how he's helping in terms of from the medical and healthcare perspective as well. Moving on. So allow me to just clarify. NTIS is not about funding. It is about acceleration. It is about commercialization. It's about adoption. But we do take note that that the companies would require some sort of help as well financially. So there are 4 different sandbox, and these sandbox are available, and the funding are available via MTDC. Yeah, they hold the fund. So first, you have Sandbox 1, Sandbox 2, Sandbox 3, and Sandbox 4. So it goes from the least critical, the least complicated to the most complicated. So if you are, for example, you have a product that you want to test, it's TRL level 6, it meets the problem statement, and it's one location that you may apply to the Sandbox 1. So it's a single site. So for example, you're testing at one hospital or one agricultural farm. Yeah. But if you're testing at 2, then perhaps you want to go for 2. Or if you're ready for commercialization, then you go for 3. So we can invite some of the speakers here today because they can tell you a lot more. And Sandbox 4 is a lot more complex, yeah. But this is not for directly to the companies. This is about investors and corporate companies where they come together, they can put together the money, and they have a bigger pool that for technology that they would want to fund. Okay, so but NTIS is not just about companies, startups, scale up. Yeah, we are also talking about it's a more structured approach to a sandbox. So which means that you already have the government side, you have companies, but we are also inviting big corporate players. We are inviting VCs. We are inviting academias, yeah, communities and whatnot. They can also partake in NTIS. So this what we call as the Innovation Accelerator Network, which is EN for short. Yeah. So we invite investors, and if you can look at the stages at the bottom table there, from this application stage to the screening, development, pilot stage, and pilot success, where we are looking for like-minded partners who can give us the problem statement, yeah, help us build capacity, capabilities, yeah, how do infrastructure player, the one that can enable, also looking at partnering with regulators like we are doing right now with very closely with Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia. We're also looking for funders who can also join us in terms of helping the startups, yeah, and most importantly, I would say in market access. If we won't be doing this with the end in mind, it's not commercialization or product adoption into the government. And this is probably my last slide. So we are, apart from the players, we're looking at the partners, and now we're looking at locations as well. You need your sandbox, your physical sandbox. So watch out for this Friday, we're going to launch Felda Mempaga on, you can see there on Facebook Live. Yeah, they will have YBKJ as well as Datuk Seri Idris Yusof from Felda to be talking about what's happening at Felda Mempaga 1 and 3. I shall not spill the beans here. Just log on site on this Saturday. Yeah. And also somewhere in December, again, I cannot share too much, will be the launch or hopefully of Drone Robotics Zone in Iskandar. And this is a 2.5 years, maybe close to 2 years kind of effort. Of course, 1 year delayed due to COVID, but it is back on track. We want to see that the players, the companies, the corporates, the government, they can all come to one location, or in this case, 2 locations, whereby they can see all of the innovative product and technology being tested in a safe environment. Yeah, so that's ultimately is where you're going to see things starting to fly or robots hitting the road, and a lot more innovative and technology stuff will be happening as well. A lot of our NTIS companies can be funneled to this location in order to test their technologies and product too. Yeah. So I believe that's the last slide. Justin, so back to you. How do I do?
Not too bad, Safuan. More or less on time.
More or less, okay.
Yeah. Well, okay, thank you, and thank you, Safuan, for that great presentation. Yeah, so for anyone who's just joining us, this is a webinar on Malaysia as a sandbox for next generation technologies, and basically how Safuan just ran us through the National Technology Innovation Sandbox initiative by MOSTI in positioning Malaysia as a test bed for new technologies. All right. So I like that Safuan brought up that that Korean show, The Startup, and I think that's I've been recommended by quite a few people. There's a good show as well. So homework for everyone who is watching, who is on this webinar right now. Okay, so let's moving into the panel session. We have several questions already from the audience, but and we have some questions that I think will be relevant, be coming up from Safuan's presentation that I would like to put to the panel to our panelists here as well. So I think let's start with Safuan, right? Fresh off the presentation. Besides the NTIS, what makes Malaysia? What would you say makes Malaysia a magnet for next generation imaging technologies?
I would say that we have I would say our companies, the opportunity to partner with our companies. I mean, we have such fantastic and innovative companies. I wasn't aware of this, and I have to admit as well. So 2.5 years ago, when I started the Dronetech ecosystem for Malaysia, right, and I only started with a handful of companies. I actually started with one. So I thought this is something very unique. That we're going to robotics, but a robot that flies. So then I started peering into the ecosystem, and start to realize that you have this collection of amazing companies, robotics and drone companies. And I feel that that should be a strong magnet, because I think you need to have a strong partner, not only a strong partner that is financially strong, but a strong partner which is innovative, who's really going out testing out all new stuff. I mean, you read it just now about Dr. Yeong and his company success, right? I mean, that's amazing. I didn't count 100, but Dr. Yeong, I believe you that you probably have reached that much. So I think the rest of it, the government can come in terms of providing with infrastructure, financial assistance. I mean, all of this, it's already being done. And I have been in MDEC for about 12 years, and I was starting with the shared services and outsourcing as well. So I know we have strength in terms of labor, high skilled labor, in terms of infra, government facilitation, but now the latest that I like to bring up is actually the companies themselves.
All right. Thanks for that, Safuan. And so, I mean, I know that the question was phrased a little bit. When I use the word magnet, obviously we're thinking of pulling in people from other places, right? Perhaps this I would like to address Armi instead, right? Or Dr. Yeong as well. Feel free to chip in. Basically, what brought you back to Malaysia in pushing these new technologies, in setting up your company to explore next generation technologies in Malaysia? Either Armi or Dr. Yeong, please.
Yeah, maybe I start first. I think this one back to when I first started DA Automation. I mean, when we met a customer, it's a big MNC company. Then they were asking for a robotic solution. I mean, to be honest, that was 8 years ago. And they were asking this autonomous mobile robot, or AGV, automated guided vehicle. We were actually quite surprised, because this AGV is been there for the last 15 years around the world. Germany has been using it, Japan, US, and so on. Then we told to the customer, say that, hey, why don't you just buy from Japan? I mean, that's the nearest country that you can buy. Then they say, no, Yeong, I mean, why don't you just try to build one and sell to us and see how it goes? Then slowly we say, okay, why don't we make one and see? Because in UTM, I've been guiding some students to build robot for competition, and be winning. I mean, we represent Malaysia for that. So we have some kind of experience in that, just that we have not really pushed into commercialization. So then we try to do that. And when I still remember when we first sell our first robot with a price tag that I think, in our opinion, is quite expensive. I mean, 10,000 ringgit. And then to the customer, all of a sudden they say that, wow, so cheap. Then they buy another 4. Right after that, they buy another 10. Then we kind of a shock. Then we go a little bit of market survey ourselves. Then only we realize that at that time, I think 2012, that is where the Amazon used a Kiva robot. And we actually tried to ask Kiva Robot at the time, it's about 1 million ringgit Malaysia, one unit. Then we asked from Japan, it's about 500,000. Then we went to Singapore to ask for a solution. It's about 500,000 Singapore dollar for a basic AGV robotic. So that is really struck me. Then I was thinking that, hey, there's a lot of technology out there, but actually it's not available in Malaysia in this region. So then myself and my two of my ex-students, then we co-founded this company. We see there is a need in Malaysia and also in this region to provide an affordable and also a right fit to this region. So that's pretty much why we start this technology. Again, why many? I think there is a huge demand in this part of the world that need this kind of technology that is still not available. We thought that the technology is out there, but again, it's out of the reach. And I think I've been with a student in university and so on. All these students are very hungry to make something. So I think, yeah, that will be really answer the question why Malaysia is really the magnet. There's a lot of MNC industry here. There's a talent pool here already. It's just the ecosystem is starting to build up. So I would say that now would be the very hot time. Yeah.
Okay. Armi, would you like to add anything to that?
Okay, so basically, I'm coming with the background from Germany. Okay, so I received the scholarship from JPA to pursue my study in both degree and master in Germany. So during my time, I'm pretty much well exposed in the engineering field. But talking about business is something quite alien for me, being a technical person. So after during my 7 years time in Germany, so I've been exposed to a lot of new technology. Talking one of it is a drone. So I believe that where I have the intense interest in developing new convergent technology, marrying the drone also other high-tech technology, talking about AI, talking about geospatial data, augmented reality, virtual reality. So I believe about that time, I want to bring the technology driven by my passion back into Malaysia to contribute something after maybe the government has contribute me in a way through the scholarship. Maybe it's time for us also with my other partner to contribute back to the nation, bring the technology. So I believe Malaysia is on par with anyone else, being in the Germany itself very competitive. So I know we Malaysian also have the capability to stand tall amongst the other big player out there. So that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Yeong and Armi. Perhaps let's move on to the next question. I'll pose this one to Jinsi instead, right? I saw as part of your profile, I can't help but notice that besides being an entrepreneur, you are also a certified pilot. And I think, I don't think Armi or Dr. Yeong are lacking technical skills either. So perhaps all three of you could answer this actually. Like really, when we talk about entrepreneurs in Malaysia, like how do we, how do I put it? How do we ensure that the entrepreneurs or the startups here in Malaysia have a good blend of technical experts as well as entrepreneurs, right? I mean, I think Armi mentioned earlier that maybe for him at the very beginning, being an entrepreneur was something that he had to pick up along the way, right? So how is there something we can do to ensure that people can adapt better?
Sure. Thanks a lot for the question, Justin. I think one thing that I would like to highlight as well, you mentioned this earlier before in the breakout room that everyone here is sort of graduated from overseas and none of us here is from local. Yeah. So that's the problem that we see in the entrepreneurial kind of ecosystem in Malaysia, where I would say a lot of, or quite a wide margin of companies in Malaysia is started by founders that have returned back from overseas. Like I myself personally also been in Australia for about 10 years, then came back. So that's the kind of thing. And you sort of have to ask the question, why is that the case, where we don't see, even though Malaysia, and everyone admits it, we have a very strong talent pool, we have strong tech skills and so on. We don't see a very big kind of ecosystem for new startups and companies. And if you ask the question why, it's quite obvious, where it comes down to the mindset of the education system and how it's structured in Malaysia, where if you look at the education system in Malaysia through high school, through university, typically the direction it's always been the lecturers, the students, the teachers are being spoon-fed. We are given a structured program, even like if you look at SPM and so on, everything is structured too well. and you don't have much freedom to go around and choose what's happening. Whereas if you look at the Western education system, starting from, I would say, secondary school, you're given the option and the choice to pick and study what you like to do, and people tend to do what they like to do and they follow their passion. So that's the kind of problem that we see in the ecosystem in Malaysia, where a lot of fresh grads, after coming out and after graduating, they have no idea what they want to do. They don't know what's their passion, and therefore they go and work in a MNC or corporate, and naturally that leads to a lower percentage of companies and startups in the region. So it comes back down to the education system, I would say.
Okay. Thanks for those insights. Maybe the question for anyone who wants to take it up, please feel free. Do you think this initiative, the National Technology Innovation Sandbox, would help in pushing companies in terms of pushing companies to actually experiment with new technologies, or for people to set up startups, to try out this next generation stuff as well?
I'm going to give it to the companies, Justin, because I might be biased.
My choice.
DX, Armi, and Dr. Yeong, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, let me add a little bit on that. I think it's kind of like just now JX said that the education in Malaysia is kind of like not really guiding us to that direction. I would say number one, that is very important. I mean, myself, I'm a very technical person. 20 years ago, I'm a lecturer, and from my first tenure of my career, I have won some innovation award. Then I have business come to me, say that they want to commercialize. I told them outright, I said that I don't fancy commercialization because I just like to do innovation. And then I just got a chance to go to London for my study. And I was shocked, actually, to be honest. I had some part-time job teaching there. So I asked a student in Malaysia, before I asked, what do you want to become? Just like JX earlier mentioned, they will maybe keep quiet. They don't know what they want. I mean, they're all spoon-fed. Either they want to become engineer, lawyer, or doctor. So when I asked, so when I asked a student in Imperial College London, I was shocked. They were saying that they want to do something big. They want to be like Mark Zuckerberg. They want to do something to help the society and so on. So I was like, hey, why there's a huge differences there? So one of the things that I can think of is, I mean, one thing of course is the education structure and system. The other one is actually is the mindset and also the ecosystem. And I got a chance to go to East Stanford, thanks to Majid East Stanford as well. And it was really eye-opening when yeah. So we flew there for 2 weeks together with other entrepreneurs. Everyone is like looking for big thing. They want to do something huge, and they want to help each other. And so, and we don't see that. So after then I came back to Malaysia, and just like Azmi want to give back to the country. So I've been thinking that, okay, we should do that. So firsthand, I asked my colleague and my student to do that. So I can tell you all students and my peers or colleagues say that Yeong is crazy. As a lecturer and student, how can he do business one? So that was a big challenge within the 2 years. I mean, thankfully, actually Magic started in 2013 or 14 at that time. So I was starting to venture to entrepreneurship journey. So then I joined all kind of a training, seminar, and so on. This is where it all started. And really, Magic helped me a lot in the sense of what is entrepreneurship, link us to the entrepreneur and so on and so forth. I think that would be a very first stage, I would say, from the entrepreneur mindset is very important. But once you have a product for DF automation, I think this is also very relevant to NTIS. Yeah, DF automation, when we first started to build a product for manufacturing industry, so we've been doing that for the last 8 years until now. We tried to go to healthcare for 8 years, and I can tell you, not so successful because healthcare is very difficult. And during the COVID-19 MCO, and thanks to MDEC mostly and a lot of collaborators involved, and also NTI Sandbox, we managed to go into the hospital in 17 days. So again, I think that is very important. Not only the funding part, actually they managed to put all the very important policymakers, the responsible people come together and talk and discuss what should we do to move things forward. I think that is very, very important. Yep.
Yeah, I think just to add a bit from my side as well, how does NTIS play a role in sparking this kind of innovation in Malaysia? It's if you're going back to the mindset again, for a lot of Malaysian we are afraid to fail. It's kind of an Asian mindset compared to the Western mindset where they don't care if they fail. In fact, a lot of investors, they fund founders based on how many times they failed. Whereas if you go to a Malaysian VC, they'll probably tell you failed before, I'm not going to invest in you anymore. And that's a kind of big difference. So where NTIS would come in as a sandbox would be it softens that kind of impact if someone fails. And that's the whole purpose of a sandbox where if you fail, you don't, I would say, die and crash. At least you land on sand, you can restart, climb back out and try again. And that's where it should spark and make it easier for new entrepreneurs to come into the space.
Okay.
If I may add, so I'm talking not only on behalf of Overtech. Yeah? It maybe could be the dilemma among the other startup, how the sandbox is going to help. So most of the next generation entrepreneur, normally they start very small, with talking about 1 or 2% founder, or typically the co-founder, with limited access to the opportunities and also constrained by some obstacles. So most, they have excellent idea, turn into very viable business concept. But if hit by bigger player with more capacity, will eventually turn out to be a major successful venture. Many example, Malaysian setup, no local support. Sometimes they go to Singapore, now become Singapore global success story again. So this small startup, we need to hand-holding and all kind of assistance to get them on their feet. So the next generation sandbox NTIS So it's very, very important to ensure that no good, also viable idea are left behind. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it could be because of the political influence. Okay, so the emerging technology players are mostly still at the starting block. And also, important to say, also to highlight technology is very synonymous to increase the productivity and also could boost the economy. So there is a multiplier effect, which we could say associated to the adaptation of the new technology innovation. So this is going to be the best opportunity for Malaysia to be with the global pack. The sandbox NTIS opportunities will definitely provide the shape and form for this potential to be on their feet faster and also run with the rest. So it's one way to create ecosystem for new talent to come in, also idea they can continuously flourish and without the fear for setback, like Jesse mentioned. In that sense, having a sandbox or testbed is necessary for the nation in order for us to transition into innovation-led economy.
Justin, can I add also? I mean, in terms of, remember earlier when I mentioned that we are quite high when you talk about innovation, global innovation, right? Because you can see why. You're hearing after this the players here, but commercialization rate, is low. So that's the problem in between which NTIS is trying to address. How do we accelerate adoption? How do we accelerate commercialization as well? Because eventually you can maybe survive 1 fall, 2 fall maybe, 3 maybe you'll start bruising yourself, but I think 4th, 5th, 6th, and you're probably out of the game. So I think so we cannot just leave the startups or the scale-ups by themselves. So this is where government, corporates, academias, investors. As I mentioned earlier, NTIS is a more structured program for to allow this to happen.
Okay. And thank you everyone for all your insights. Some of the feedback that I'm getting is very interesting for I think the government of Malaysia as a whole to consider. But one thing I noticed as well, that everybody talked about nurturing and building people from the get-go and everything, right? Whereas earlier from the slides, NTIS is focusing primarily on technology readiness level 6 and onwards, right? May I ask if there's anything in the works or in already existing for TRL 1 to 5, or what was that, the thinking behind only TRL 6 onwards?
Okay, so I'll take that question first because we can't be boiling the ocean. So we need to address, we already have a national problem, and we need the solution almost like yesterday, or if not last week. As Dr. Yeong would know, when it comes to the hospital. So that's why it got there in 17 days. So I think in terms of that's why we selected that 6, because 6 means that you already have a prototype, and a prototype in an operating environment. next level is actually commercial environment. Yeah, so you are ready to go out and commercialize. So, but in the works 1 to 5, this is where we work with other agencies. Yeah, even MDEC as well. Yeah, when we talk about TRL level 5, okay, put the TRL aside. Yeah, TRL is maybe a bit too complicated because then you have to look what's technology readiness level, what's 1, what's 9, what is NASA's talking about TRL. Yeah, so let's put that aside. Let's just talk about journey for the growth of a startup. Yeah, you go through your early phase. Yeah, you probably come up with an idea or problem statement. You want to solve it. You want to test it. Yeah, then it got valid. Then you move on from there. Once it's okay, then you move on to your intermediate stage. You validate. Yeah, and you start to find the product market fit. Yeah, and you start looking at local markets. How can I expand? How can I grow bigger? And then the late and mature, then which I hope majority of the companies will start be looking into regional and global. Yeah. So, of course, for the one now, if we put that into that perspective, that gives you an idea already, right? In terms of which agency you can go with, in terms of capability development, yeah, in terms of technology support. So you have all of the agencies; they are all there. So, which is why I try not to use for this question, not to use the TRL explanation, but generally what we already have. Yeah, you have MDEC, yeah, you have KKM, you have MDEC there, yeah. You have MOSTI. Under MOSTI, you have TP. You have so many players, yeah, including all the funders as well. They are there. So now that broadens up the picture. So you're talking about technology TRL level 1 to 5. We're talking about early and intermediate. It's there. Yeah, maybe it's not perfect, but I would say that it's there. It probably needs a bit more visibility, and people need to know more. Once they get the entrepreneurial bug, they've been bitten by it, then they need to be able to look, okay, where do I go? So I think now I think the advice to the agencies is that we need to be talking the language that Armi, Dr. Yeong, and JX is talking, yeah, and not to be too program focused in terms of we lose sight of what we actually who do we serve, yeah. Ultimate stakeholder here that we need to have in mind, yeah, is going to be is the ultimate stakeholder, yeah. All right.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
think just to add a bit more to what Safuan said, is that as a company that we started in Malaysia, there are definitely a lot of support for the initial stage of the company. From TRL 1 to 6, you have too many agencies, I would say, that you don't even know where to go. But the bigger problem that we see, and I think the ministries are also recognizing right now, is there is a very big gap between, I would say, mid-late stage company to a global stage company. And that's where we lose the biggest talents. If you look at all the household names, just Grab, for example, that's where I would say that was one of the main reason why they went down to the South Island was because there was a gap in the ecosystem. And we cannot afford to have too many of companies doing that, because ultimately companies like Grab are one of the biggest revenue and tax drivers in the whole country. They create jobs, and having companies like Grab in the ecosystem, naturally they would then funnel back new companies will sprout out of them. They would support the local ecosystem, and it creates this kind of chain and cycle that you would see if you look at successful areas like Silicon Valley. That's the whole reason why, where Intel built up to a global level, a lot of people came out and then started their own company, and it created this ecosystem. And we have to fill that kind of gap between the middle late stage to a global company, and that's where the issue is right now.
Okay.
Totally agree. Just like JX said and Safuan said, there's a lot of fun actually between TRL1 to TRL6. There are too many of them. And even if I have few companies, we have received this initial fund. And most of the lecturer in university, we have a lot of fundamental research fund as well. But the bigger challenge is always how the fundamental result to be applied and to be commercialized. And I really happy that NTS is there, and I hope that NTS can be stay there for longer time. I still remember when I went through the NTI screening process, it was so tough. I would say tough in the sense of it's good, because they were asking like, is your product ready? What's your business model? And so on and so forth. So I can foresee this can really help a lot of company to commercialize their product, to have so-called business sense when they want to put a product into a sandbox, for instance. Yeah.
So the sandbox gives room for all the participants to measure their readiness, also practicality with the industry expert, also decision professional. However, I think TRL 6 and beyond are selected for the process because, like Safuan mentioned, the sandbox is not only for the brainstorming and conceptual idea, but more into the commercialization process, but also to test out the innovation in proper platform sandbox, like what we are doing in Polda Mempaga in this coming near future, and also to help commercialize the solution. So in this respect, TRL 6 and above is given a priority, but of course anyone is welcome to join in order to assess the better oneself. So every technology eventually was at some point TRL 1.
Okay. Well, that's very comprehensive answers from everyone, I must say, when put together. I think that really covers the scope. But just in case anyone has any doubt or ambiguity, please feel free to always reach out to organizations like MDEC or Majid if you need, if you just want to inquire like what kind of assistance is available, and both our agencies are definitely more than happy to help any company no matter what stage you are at. All right, so moving on a bit from there, NTIS, as I understand, is a sandbox for, so it's a sandbox for startups in Malaysia and everything. And I, even just from the profile earlier, as well as my understanding of your company, so this is, I'm going to look a little bit more to Armi and JX here. Both of your companies are in the drone space, and both of your companies are expanding beyond Malaysia as well, right? For Armi, I think you're going into Indonesia and even Romania. JX, you're in Thailand right now. So if there's more, do let me know. I may have missed out. So, but just want to know, like, how has what kind of support has been available from the Malaysian government in terms of helping you expand out? That's one. And, may I ask what's the rationale for selecting the markets that you select as well? I think that's one another. That'll be interesting to hear.
Armi, you want to go?
You say first, lah.
Okay. All right, sure. I think for us, definitely there has been a lot of support from the government, especially MDEC, I would say, where we were one of the recipients of the MDEC Global Technology Fund, where there has been a lot of support coming in, not just in funding-wise, but also exposure, market access, and so on, where number one, it helped us strengthen our product itself. And number two, it helped us build our team overseas, set up the ground base over there, the initial start, which is typically the hardest part, and also to build the initial connections to I would say the equivalent of MDEC and Majid in Thailand, where we recently expanded to. And that really helped accelerate the whole development process, because if we were to say step into the country of Thailand ourselves, number one, I can't speak Thai. It's a language barrier already. And number two, we don't even know where to start. So that's always the part where having touch point in a new country would accelerate your process by easily 1 or 2 years, I would say. Compared to when we started in Malaysia, we didn't know what Majid was, what MDEC was, and so on. Whereas when we go into Thailand, we already know the equivalents. And so that's one of the biggest benefit, I would say, in terms of our growth journey. I think the other part is like why we decided to expand overseas. It's end of the day, Malaysia, it's a relatively small market. We have 30 million population over here. If you look next door, Thailand is much bigger. Indonesia is even bigger. Population-wise, it's huge, where Malaysia, it's always known as a good starting point. But for any company to grow big, we have to look beyond our shores. And that's what we are doing right now. So the reason why we looked at Thailand first was that if you look at the Thailand ecosystem, and it sort of relates to the mindset of the corporates over there, the corporates in Thailand, they are very forward-thinking from what we experienced working with them, where they are willing to invest and try new technologies on products that they don't have a 100% guarantee if it will work or not. For example, within a month of us landing in Thailand, we got a first project with the National Thai Oil Group, PTT. And that's something in Malaysia, if you look at, I'm not going to name names, but it'll take us years to get it done. And the fact that we're not even a local company, it tells us a lot. And the fact that they were willing to pay all costs for us, our team to fly there with equipment, cover all our expenses, it's a big difference. in terms of the corporate and how they think about new technologies. So that's one of the reasons why we went there.
Okay.
For us, we do get a lot of assistance in terms of financial, also technical, and also networking from agencies such as MDEC, namely the GTF Fund, Global Tech Fund, purposely to commercialize our product not only for the local market as well for the international market. So talking about our international ventures, we already have a setup in Indonesia, PT OVO Solusi Nusantara, based in Jakarta, because we find that the market is much bigger in Indonesia, because our past project in Malaysia, talking about Pembrona Highway, we monitor 4,000 kilometers of highway. But talking about in Indonesia market, in their context, they possibly they have 10 times more Pembrona Highway compared to Malaysia. So the difference is vast We're talking about 100 million of population. The market is there only we need to bring or to replicate our service into the new region. And the other area that we explore South Asia, so we are using Bangladesh as our entry point for South Asia. So that's the one of the reasons why we venture into the Bangladesh market. Also with the familiarity with some familiar face that we get to know here in Malaysia. So also we try to replicate our service and also offering to offer in South Asia market. And Romania, because of our close contact with the local there, so we try to make it as our entry point to the European market. So that's the reason why we try to venture and why we select the company, the country such as Romania, Indonesia, and also Bangladesh.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting insights, I must say, especially for a non-entrepreneur like myself so far. So just want to check especially with Safuan. So would you say that does the NTIS actively assist companies in expanding overseas as well, or is it more focused on market fit and adoption in Malaysia?
So as you would have known, so we were colleagues once, while I was in MDEC. So for NTIS is predominantly local. It's predominantly about getting them to stabilize and getting the product and the solution tested. Without which, I don't think anybody in the right mind would want to go out, with a half-ready product or solution untested as well. So, in fact, that even if, let's say, you haven't got your project off the ground, but to actually meet up with investors and companies to be able to inform them that your product has been approved or been admitted into the National Technology and Innovation Sandbox should account for something, that it is a government-led project and your product and solution has been admitted to NTIS. That is worth something for you to start the discussion on. But again, coming back to your question, it is targeting local or companies, foreign companies that is coming to Malaysia and setting up local entities. We do entertain that as well. As long as the impact is going to be in Malaysia, local, and of course, the bonus will be if the product and solution can then be expanded overseas into other global markets. I think Malaysia is strategically positioned as a launchpad into the ASEAN market for many reasons. Yes, I agree with JX. I can't speak Thai too. But I can probably pass off as if you go around as the Asian face. And it's easy for us. I think Malaysia is well known. It's relatively it's stable economic wise, political wise. So we have all the infrastructure. And again, I have to cycle back to we have great companies. We have great companies, but not much have been done to make them visible regionally as well as globally. I think that deserves a big push. I mean, you're talking about DF automation, talking about OVO and Polardrone. I think a lot of the effort have to come from themselves in order to prop them up yeah, and for them to be able to be visible. I think this is where perhaps an agency such as MDEC and Majid and others as well should play also an important role in terms of highlighting them again and again and again, because we want to make sure that when they land, for example, in Bangladesh or Romania or Thailand, you know, the moment where they open up they open up the calendar and say, oh, I got a meeting with Polardrone. Okay, I go and look what's Polardrone. I say, wow, it comes out here, comes out there. Yeah, and Borneo, for example, you know, MCK19. You know, you have there, you know, or is Oryctus. I have to correct you, Justin. It's not Orysites, it's Oryctus. You know,
Oryctus, my bad.
JS will kill me if I pronounce it wrong.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's Oryctus. Yeah, it stands for it stands for a beetle. Yeah, that does harm to the palm oil tree. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, JX. Yeah,
That's correct.
So, yeah. So I mean, it's just that you got, you know, so much things that we can brag about. Yeah, I know that we tend to focus on the one company that went to Singapore, but I think, you know, well, we got tons of them, more of those. Yeah, if we can produce one, we can produce 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so let's focus on these guys here. Yeah, I think MDEC, in terms of when you bring in your investment, I mean, we're gonna have, imagine, you know, just take visualize this with me. Yeah, when we have all of this NTIS location, you got agri location. So, for example, like Felda, or you got a dedicated city like the drone and robotics hub in Iskandar, and you got fantastic local players. Yeah, you got corporates. Yeah, you got academias. You got EduCity there in Iskandar as well, and then MDEC's bringing the big names. Yeah. We need, for example, for drones to fly, what do you need? You need the frequency, telco, batteries, and whatnot. Yeah, you bring in the likes of, you know, big names that are in those areas to partner with. For them, they would want to work with people that can test their product as well. Yeah. So Justin, you know, I know in terms of, you know, MDEC has done a lot in terms of the GBS, Global Business Services, as well as pulling in investment into Malaysia. You know, it's time for you to bring up these names of companies and put it out there and say, okay, I'm going to match you and you, you and you, you and you, right? And I'm going to put you here. Now we have nationwide. One day, eventually, now we're starting with 2. Eventually, we'll have NTS location popping up all over Malaysia. Yeah, so one focusing on agriculture, one focusing on manufacturing, one focusing on healthcare. That is, you know, imagine that, and I think that's a vision which I want, you know, for us to really put it out there. Yeah, so it's as simple as, you know, come to Malaysia, we'll connect you up with our local players, you know, with funders and whatnot. You know, we got, you know, if you want to count the length of the road in Malaysia, come on, right? You want to do robotic testing on the road, yeah, you can do from Perlis right down to the tip of Johor, the southern tip of Johor. Count the number of kilometers there, my friend, yeah, and you can do 3 rounds, you can really do amazing stuff, right, Dr. Yeong? I mean, right now we're just testing the boundary of hospitals, but imagine if Dr. Yeong one day, you know, his robot matures and he goes on to do something else, yeah? You have the whole country, even Sabah Sarawak, not forgetting, yeah? And you can even test, for example, what do you want? You want to test urban, rural environment, you want to test flying over jungles, you know, 100, 200, 300 kilometers over nothing but flora, fauna, jungles, and whatnot. You can do that. You know, you ask Armi and JX, do you want to fly a drone from this tip of Sabah to that tip of Sarawak? I say, yeah, why not, right? I mean, just to prove a point that you can do it. I know your drones can do it, but regulation is holding you back. Similarly as well, the testing of robots in hospitals and whatnot. You got amazing stuff, my friend. Yeah, all waiting to happen. And we need to make it happen for the benefit of these people here.
Of course, yeah, definitely. We have plenty of great companies and startups here. I mean, besides 3 amazing companies that are already here with us today, there are so many others that are also being, you know, getting the attention of global investors as well. And we can see there have been quite a few partnerships that have been going on in the market. Yeah, but that's a topic for another day. Right. Talking about NTIS, and as you just mentioned, it's more for local market fit. I would love to hear maybe some examples from, as I heard earlier and in the profile, Dr. Yeong has that Makcik Kia robot. I have to admit that's also actually a bit of news to me. I only just found out like last night when I was doing my homework for today's session. Maybe you could share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, quick one. So like I mentioned, DF, we actually supply robot for industry. Our customer are mostly MNC. And I mean, we have robot that actually can carry 500 kg to 1 ton to help them to reduce their labors workers. Lah. So we have been exporting to few countries, Singapore, India, Mexico, and also Europe. And I mean, during the MCO, basically we cannot do. I have 60 staff to feed, and all of a sudden, all engineer cannot do anything. We kind of like not I mean, like engineer, if you don't work one day, it's really feel uncomfortable. So then, I mean, we would know that the MCO being applied, and all of a sudden, the Prime Minister announced an extension on 25th of March. I mean, they really trigger my team and my management team to say that, hey, we need to do something. Because at that time, we hear a lot of, I mean, the doctor are overwhelming the frontliner. We don't have enough PPE. We don't enough many things. Then nurses, some of them are being infected. So we think that, hey, we should do something about that because other country, robotic company are do something for the hospital. Why not us? So of course, when we look back us, we are a small company. I mean, we thought that we cannot do it. So then we just have a phone call to my management team. Then we say that, hey, we really need to do something and see what we can help, I mean, the frontliner. So I think that triggered us to brainstorm, and then we write an article actually to our website. We say that, hey, actually robot can do some tasks already. I mean, we have robot, we have demo robot. We can just do a quick modification of the robot and put into the hospital. I remember we put one is for disinfection. The other one is actually for to deliver the food. So that is a rough idea I sketched on the piece of paper. Within 2 days, I asked my guy to draw a nicer design. Then we put onto the book lah. So on the very same day as well, then I think mostly MTDC and a few other organizations come up to set up this WhatsApp group to discuss what robotic technology company in Malaysia can actually help to the hospital. So that is really aligned to our objective lah. So then, I mean, mostly ask what help do we need. Then I said we need to talk to a hospital to really go detail what they actually want. So we went to hospital UKM and we met Dr. Hanafi, the director of the hospital. Then they share actually one thing that we can do is actually to deliver the food. Then I said, oh, okay, great. When do you need it? Then, of course, Dr. Hanafi said yesterday. We were like, okay. And our normal lead time to produce a robot is actually 3 months. I mean, to be honest. But then we say, okay, we try to do as fast as we could. And that day is actually MCO. So again, we don't have a license to work. So then we ask mostly MTDC to help to apply for MITI for the letter. So we managed to get the letter to start to work. I can share with you, when we start to work, all the challenge come into the place. The internet are not working, the vendor closed, and all kind of stuff happening. But again, I think this is where entrepreneur is and innovation need to really take up. So we managed to build the robot within 3 or 4 days. We test out the robot. I mean, important to send the food is actually we need to have a compartment for the foods to save. So we try at our place, then we send to the hospital. So why Machikia is just a few days before the Prime Minister mentioned about Machikia, then we thought, okay, why don't we just put Machikia 19 robot? So that's how the name is being coined. But I think more important is what happened next. So right after the Machikia, actually, the MIPES actually is the actual COVID-19 hospital. They are about 400 bed, and we went there, and then we say, how long do you need the robot? They say yesterday also. To cut the story short, within 2 days we sent another robot there, and after 3 months, actually we served over 1,000 meal, and then we help the nurses to deliver the food and so on and so forth. And yeah, that was I think back in July and August. So now we have a new Machikia again. I think we were in the Sandbox with a nicer commercializable robot with more affordable. And now it's actually running at hospital rehabilitation Cheras to again help the frontliner to send the meal, the medicine, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that pretty much the story of Machikia.
Is there a Pakali robot coming up, Dr. Yeong?
Sorry?
Machikia is lonely. Is there a Pak Saleh robot coming out?
Yeah. Thanks for the mirror. So actually, we have a range of healthcare series. So one is the Machikia is really to deliver food and medicine. The other one is Pak Saleh. It's actually spray disinfection robot. So that robot, yeah. In fact, we have another one. It's called UV disinfection robot as well. So we have 3 robots are running, all supported by Sandbox also. Without the Sandbox, I don't think we can do all this stuff with our own pocket money. Thank you.
Okay, that's very interesting to hear. I look forward to seeing the Paksali robot in the near future.
Yeah.
Uh, coming back to the NTIS, I'm looking at the focus areas, and specifically, I noticed that education was one of the target industries.
Yep.
Safuan, could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, I know people always talk about ed tech, but is there any kind of particular solutions you have in mind, or would you say that even organizations like Eco 42, for example, or General Assembly have programs that would be of interest to NTIS?
Okay. I think again, I pity parents nowadays. Working at MCO, those with kids, yeah, especially younger ones, you would know, trying to sitting them down alone there, and to learn. Is either they go crazy or you go crazy. Oh, right now you put them online, the teacher also will probably go crazy because like I can't see you. You're not on camera. Hello, why is the class not answering to my question? No, there have to be new ways of actually how we actually engage our young ones, yeah, especially in terms of learning. So yes, there are actually products and solutions in the pipeline. We can't reveal them as of yet. But what we're trying to do, and this is something that we do at NTIS, in collaboration, again, as mentioned, it's a MOSTI-led, which means that we have access to Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Education. Yeah, at the same time, we're working with technical partners, MIMOS, TPM, Futurized. Yeah, so to make sure that the product is ready and then it complies with the regulation. So there are products there. I can tell you right now, it's virtual, it's being tested. It already has already has market traction, but we need to make sure that it is being adopted at a higher level. Yeah, and we're talking about adoption by the ministry. So we do facilitate conversation between companies and ministries. In fact, we do send them letters to the ministries. We do engage them in meetings and say, okay, we got these products coming up. Yeah, it's relevant for Ministry of Agriculture. We got this line of products ready. This is for Ministry of Education, dealing with, let's say, learning from home, or virtual learning, or gamifying learning or whatnot. Yeah, so we do have those kind of facilitation services. So I mean, education, as mentioned, is one of the 5 areas. Yeah, we're doing it the same for all the 5 target areas that mentioned earlier, but not just the 5, but also the 10. Yeah, there is a 10 and also there's a 30. Yeah, Justin. So we are in our early phase. Yeah, things are not perfect. Let me be the first one to admit. Yeah, but we are working out all the gremlins and the kinks and whatnot. So we are getting there. Yeah, slowly but surely. We need to, again, this is a mammoth task, right? Dealing with corporates, startups, academias and funding agencies and whatnot. So and we need to do it in a rush. Yeah. So if not, we will not be able to support our companies. Typically, we have horror stories about startups having to wait for 2 years for funding, or 1 year for funding, or maybe not even getting funding, or it may fail the first round. So we're trying to work everything in one go. So you already see the number of days have been reduced, yeah, from let's say 600-700 days right down to maybe 100 days. We're shortening it further. The NTIS charter is actually within 20 to 30 days. Yeah, and we're talking about from processing right down to the formalization of the funding agreement. Of course, we work across partners as well. So imagine the challenge. So I do not want to digress, but I'm just saying that from the education is one of the 5 sectors, but there are all other sectors as well. We are moving everything at same goal. Yeah. In fact, we are even looking in terms of expanding from 5 to 10 into other areas as we move along, because we need to relook in terms of how do we facilitate and accelerate the whole process. Right now, we are accelerating it based on for ease or speed, for speed especially. We are looking at companies which have been funded, facilitated by other government agencies, yeah, because they already have a track record. But going forward, and also this has always been part of the plan, we are bringing it back to the national level problem, yeah, or the grand challenge as we call it. So we already have the problem statement from the ministries. Right now, what we are trying to do is to refine the problem statement so that we can then make them public to the companies, to the academias. So then the startup can say, okay, this is what Ministry of Health want. Yeah, This is what Ministry of Agriculture wants. Yeah, this is Perumahan. So these are all the various 26 ministries. We are collecting their and refining their problem statement. One that is available, we can, the intent is to invite more bright minds to come in and innovate. Yeah, we're talking right now with TRL level 6, but again, we work as a collective. There are agencies already working between TRL 1 to 5. Yeah. And then 6 and above, we can tackle that one together. In fact, together with the MDEC GAIN program.
Yeah. Okay. And thanks, Safuan, and thanks for that plug for MDEC GAIN. Yeah.
I have to.
As we're moving towards the end of this session, and time really flies, man. It was such an interesting conversation we've been having so far. Can I just invite everyone, maybe starting with Armi, to give your thoughts on two things in particular, really. What do you see as the long-term benefits or how would NTIS benefit the country in the long run, especially in terms of spurring innovation, right? That's one. And secondly, I think earlier there was, I think one thing that everyone brought up was that the entrepreneur mindset in Malaysia and all. And I'm wondering, I would love to hear everyone's thoughts on how can Malaysia go about encouraging that as well in our talent pool.
Talent pool, okay. So answering the first one, the long run, how NTIS is going to help in the long run. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not know any government program before this anything that's similar to the NTIS. Is it? Okay, similar, right? So it's going to be considered first time lah. This kind of
it was a very limited fintech sandbox for Bank Negara, but that was a bit different in the nature as well. So,
okay. So okay, good to know. So I believe in order for us to spearhead or to become the leader, to become leader in the innovation, to turn the nation into an innovation-led economy. So it is necessary for us to have a government-led initiative to create a technology-centric ecosystem for everyone to be able to participate and contribute idea, which is now the NTIS. So from what I was informed, the NTIS initiative is already attracted overwhelming response from the slide we see from this Safuan presentation. And so participation from all walk of profession, age group, and all background in general. In that respect, the NTIS has already proved valuable in creating significant interest. And so in the long run, we'll definitely cultivate the necessary ingredient for a technology-centric ecosystem. That's the first one. The second one, what's again the question?
How do we encourage the kind of entrepreneurial mindset in our talent in Malaysia?
Okay, so entrepreneurial mindset. Okay, so if we take the prime example of tech entrepreneur, like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, we notice that both come initially from a technical, also from the engineering background, but led their career to become a full-blown business magnet. So it's not possible for one person to be capable of mastering all fields. Yeah, talking about the transition from a technical guy to become a business giant. So a jack of all trades, and I'll become a mastermind. So I myself, I had to give up a large part of my technical background. So in order to accommodate new experience in business, also in the entrepreneurial skill set. So if everyone was Steve Jobs, who could be the Steve Wozniak, right? So my underlying point is to find the balance between the two. So in order to achieve that, entirely rest of the individual willingness. So it's more of the question of nature rather than nurture. So worth to mention a symbiotic. Other point is a symbiotic relationship between university and industry. So university, with their lot of technical expert, so whereas industry, with their skill of commercialization, spirit of business and entrepreneur. So with this kind of relationship, I believe we growing into collaboration and also partnership between the industry and also university. So industry can give much needed exposure to the university, especially on the commercialization process. So I believe directly or indirectly, this effort will stimulate all these technical experts becoming entrepreneur. So that's my take.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Armi. Dr. Yeong or JX, do you guys want to add anything?
Yep. Sure. I think just to add on about the long-term benefits of NTIS, right? One of the main thing, and relating back to our solution, so our solution for NTIS, it's a agriculture spraying drone. And the main thing is we want to reduce the number of foreign labor and replace them with actual local workforce that are a bit higher skilled. So if you look at the numbers, right, where currently in Malaysia, there's about 15 million Malaysians in the workforce, and they account for about 10% of that works in the agriculture sector. But if you look at the foreign labor numbers, there's about 2 million documented foreign laborers and 4 million undocumented. Out of that 6 million, 43% works in the agriculture sector. And if you do the math, that's about 2.5 million workers that are in the agriculture sector doing low value kind of jobs such as agriculture spraying and so on. So one of the benefit for NTIS that we see from our perspective is how can we really use technology to at least replace or reduce the amount of reliance on foreign labor and replace them with higher paying skilled workers that are local. So that's one of the main benefit. And it's not just for our industry and our sector, it's for all the other solutions as well. And that's where the big long-term impact we see, job creation, high-tech skill creations, and so on. And of course, with COVID-19 coming in, at least for our sector, it really accelerated this development where if you look at the agriculture sector now, all the plantations, they're reporting shortage of worker, and they're forced into this kind of digitalization process right now. And we have to keep this going, and that's where NTIS would provide a platform for it to keep going. Again, not just for our field and not just for agriculture, but across all different segments. And then the second question, in terms of the entrepreneur mindset in Malaysia, I think one of the thing, right, was when I came back from Australia to Malaysia, during my first year, I was actually working in Intel up in Penang. And one thing I realized about Penang, and I think everyone in the tech industry would agree, is Penang has a very strong tech talent because of all the MNC, Intel, Flextronic, and everything, all the big guys are up there. But the problem with Penang's mindset is it's not so entrepreneurial. We don't have a lot of finance, commercial people up in Penang. Whereas if you look at KL, most of the people in KL, it's finance-based, tech, business, and so on. So one of the things that I've been always saying this and repeating this is how do we merge the kind of mindset and the talents in Penang or other states that are technical with the people in KL, and how do we promote that kind of cross collaboration? Because definitely, if you put someone very good in business and someone good in tech, and they can work together, that's one of the key fundamental recipe of success.
Okay, well, that's actually interesting. That's food for thought right there. And yeah, definitely, other states have a strong talent pools as well, especially in technical fields. Sorry, Dr. Yeong, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, sure. I think for the NTS, it's going to give some long-term benefit, in my personal opinion, because NTS have allowed a lot of a company doing sandbox project that actually is not possible before. Let's say there's about, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 project for the next 2 years. And if it's really successful, then it really give a very perspective saying that, hey, the sandbox is really working. It will give the confidence to the startup, the company, and also the consumer. This sandbox is a must in the near future. I would say in long run, in the near future, even if you don't have this kind of NTSA fund, the company and the startup will want to do this kind of a sandbox things also. I would say that is a very long-term effect lah. And the other one about the entrepreneur mindset, I think in Malaysia, like myself, my dad had been asking me to become an engineer. When my kid came out, I was thinking that my kid become a baker. And so I never thought him to become an entrepreneur. So I think this is really back into our Malaysia ecosystem mindset because we don't really have that kind of a culture. So of course that back into JX mentioned a little bit about the education, but I think same time also the government may able to do something, try to do I don't know, in a different multiple angle strategy to change Malaysia to become an entrepreneur country. For example, Korean have a Korean movie, the startup. So Malaysia maybe have this a Malaysia movie startup, try to highlight some of the successful entrepreneur to really push us that hey, we actually have all the ingredients. Like just now Safuan said, and of course Azmi and Jising said, we have the technical strength, we have the commercial strength. It's just that we don't really mix around and then to get things done to grow global as much as we wanted.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. And maybe the government of Malaysia should look into that multi-pronged strategy, especially
And
a
yeah,
series or a movie.
create a Malaysian drama on Magic.
Drama. Drama minggu ni, ya. Safuan, do you have any thoughts on that on those items as well?
Apart from coming up with the Malaysia startup drama and I think a lot have been said by a lot have been said by the founders themselves, by the companies here. A lot of great ideas. I think that the NTIS will continue. Hopefully, will continue to be able to push more and more companies to be able to commercialize and adopt. I think it's not just one agency; it's the effort of many here. Yeah, and I think that we have to be able to dream of a bigger vision. I always like. I have this movie in mind. I can't tell you what it is, but it's about a group of people who sees the bigger vision. Yeah, and it's about the ability to pull together the people who shares that kind of vision, where other people would consider them crazy, like Dr. Yeong. So I mean, like, yeah, these are again, Steve Jobs said it nicely, right? To the crazies and to the whatnot. So we need to be able to encourage those. I mean, not really, really crazy, but crazy in the sense that they are going to go out there and really test new things. They go against their parents in terms of not wanting what they want to do. Yes, I admit, yeah, I grew up wanted to be either a lawyer, doctor, or engineer. So and I keep rotating that every year. And if that were to be my guide, that were to be my north, I don't know where I'll be today. Probably I'll be a successful lawyer, but very unhappy. But the fact is, I've been blessed in the sense that being able to work in multiple agencies, yeah, and I can see that we are on the right. Malaysia is on the right track. We just need to persevere. We just need to be able to think out of the box. We just need to see in terms of the issue is not about resource. Yeah, I think all of you here are very resourceful. Yeah, and I think that we have to also be more open to be able to share in terms of our challenges and whatnot, and use it. Yeah, I mean, like, agencies and governments need to hold this kind of like session where you organize syndication among industry and also with players as well. Yeah, enable sort of like a not just pitching, again going to that startup kind of movie, right? But I think it's not just pitching towards investors here. I think corporates and government, we can always host a pitching competition. I think there's enough hackathon happening, but I think it's just that just a simple conversation in terms of what's your problem, what's the issue that you want to solve, what's your challenges. Yeah, let's be open about it, let's be very specific, so that then these people can come in and say, I have that kind of solution, or maybe I'll do a big tweak. Yeah, I think I'll be able to address, so for example, like Kementerian Belia dan Sukan, yeah, right now are the athletes able to train? Yeah, not as freely as before, but I think with technology, yeah, with you can track their movement, you can actually give them the capability of doing VR or AR. I mean, all these things are now made possible. Rehabilitation as well. So it's about possibilities. It's about having a bigger vision. It's about dare to dream. It's about working with the like-mindeds of the one with the business skill, the tech skills, and a bit crazy of the of the chart a bit, yeah, because they are the ones who's going to come up with these crazy ideas, and then lo and behold, in maybe 17 days, suddenly somebody wants it. Yeah, you never know. Yeah, COVID is here to stay, and it's changing our lives in many ways that we can't even imagine. Yeah, so I think that's my, I don't know, my parting words. Of course, if you have, I have to plug in for Magic. If you have a TRL level 6 kind of ready program, you're solving the national problem, yeah, and you feel that you're ready to commercialize, and you are a Malaysian company or you're a foreign company incorporated in Malaysia, you're targeting to grow to scale. We would open our arms, invite you to NTIS. I mean, there's a website that is mentioned at the title page just now, or you can just type Sandbox, yeah, Malaysia Sandbox, or NTIS. You'll be guided to our website, and it is all just follow the steps. If you're not sure, there's an FAQ session. If you're not sure, there is an industry roundtable. If you're not sure, just call me up.
And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who will take you up on that, Safuan, especially calling you up, the handsome jangkut there and everything.
You're talking about Armi. You're mistaken.
Yeah, thank you.
Two handsome gentlemen there then. But,
We said a compliment.
and actually, I see quite a few questions from the audience as well, asking about drone collaborations. And besides hitting up Safuan, do feel free to reach out to, I think, our other panelists here as well, Armi. There's in fact a question here for people who are looking for geospatial experienced drone flying company for geospatial applications. I think that's exactly up Ofo's lane, right? And and I think there's some in the agriculture questions. Definitely feel free to, I think, Polardrone will be more than happy to work with any on potential partnerships there.
Just on that note, if for any drone related matters, head on to mydronetech@mdec.com.my.
Yes, I was just coming to that. In fact, today there was Majid and MDEC has been long working very closely together in building up the drone ecosystem. Safuan used to be the champion for that, and he's still the champion for that just now on the other side. In fact, there's a drone event going on today as well for anyone who's interested. Yeah. And so as we reach the end, I just wanted to summarize a little bit of for the whole startup ecosystem and how companies can benefit. So as Safuan has already pointed out, NTIS covers primarily those who are a bit more ready, but Malaysian government support is available for those even from the very start conceptual basis. Majid has their own gap programs as well to help you get started. And once you're up and ready, there are funds available from all over the place, right? And and yes, foreign guys are welcome, although the solutions are meant primarily for Malaysia. But again, Majid and MDEC both are capable to assist companies in expanding into the region and beyond as well. Yeah, so I think that sort of captures everything at a high level. And I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. I would like to thank all the panelists for spending your time here with us and providing all these extremely interesting insights, especially even for myself. I thought I knew a bit about this industry already. And I can't believe it. I just realized OFO awesome is actually OHSEM is awesome. Alamak. We only just occurred to me. So anyway, okay. Thank you everyone, and I hope everyone had got something out of this session. Any questions, do feel free to reach out to any of the panelists here as well. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to our moderator as well as our panelists for that dynamic discussion. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be moving forward to our next session and it will begin shortly. Click Join Session.